I was always kind of technophobic. I was afraid of the complexity of the film process. And, you know, Maya Deren, the great avant-garde filmmaker, always said that filmmaking is the most difficult art of all because not only is it extremely technical, it's also extremely expensive, and it's also the most collaborative of art. So you really have to learn how to have this kind of collaborative spirit with all sorts of artists to make your work. And those are three things that I'm terrified of, in a way. You know, like, I'm not a great social kind of person. I'm kind of technophobic, and I never had any money, you know. So I was totally in the wrong, you know, art medium. But I kind of, and Super 8 really, working in low-budget Super 8 films kind of got me over some of those phobias because it's such a simple technology, and yet the result, the technical result of it, the aesthetic result of it is so pure and so beautiful. I mean, and it can be done fairly simply, you know. So so that definitely had an effect on my overall aesthetic, and even it happened to be kind of complicit with my political views as a kind of like anti-capitalist and kind of, you know, Marxist sympathizer. So I would say they're kind of inextricably linked. But now as my filmmaking career has progressed and I'm working in bigger budgets, it's always a kind of struggle to maintain that kind of connection between that side of it, the technical side, which is very expensive, and the budgets get bigger, and the scale of the production becomes bigger, and then to reconcile that with my kind of no budget, guerrilla style kind of aesthetic and filmmaking. It's a tension that always exists. But I always tell people, when I made my first Super 8 feature-length film, No Skin Off Mask, for the total budget was $14,000. Even then, certain people in the underground accused me of selling out because I was making this, you know, expensive $14,000 movie, you know. So it's all relative, you know. You're always going to run into those kinds of accusations. For me, the digital revolution didn't make it that much cheaper. I mean, in terms of like processing the film and whatnot, it was a bit cheaper. But I mean, what the digital revolution really did was democratize cinema, so that you have, you know, everyone has access to or potential to be a filmmaker now, or a photographer. So it just kind of, there's an explosion of content. There's like, you know, there's so many different and infinite ways to distribute the work and get it seen. But on the other hand, a lot of films get lost in that kind of cacophony of work and the kind of explosion of digital imagery. It's harder to have a voice that stands out in that kind of overdetermined field, you know. So it has its downside as well. And also, there's a lot of people, I think, who don't have as much of a serious intent. You know, there's a lot of noise that is unfocused somehow. But it was definitely a revolution. It revolutionized porn. I mean, absolutely, because porn was much more exclusive in the 60s and 70s because it was all shot on 16 millimeter and 35 millimeter. It was made by filmmakers who you know, had the skill, the technical skills and the money to make it. So it was kind of a more exclusive endeavor. And now it's become democratized, and anyone can make porn, homemade porn, you know, in their spare time or whatever. So it has its advantages and disadvantages, I would say.
I hope we have enough vermouth.
Mousse, dear, mousse. And remember, just a tad. You don't want to bruise the gin. Old men and gin bruise so easily.
Mr. Peabody. What's going on in there? Are you both out of your minds?
It was his idea.
Pick up your shoes. Let's go. Do you know what your mother would say if she found out about this?
How will she find out?
What am I gonna do with you? Oh, yeah, get dressed. Let's go. Come on, hurry up. Come on. I really don't know what I'm gonna do with you.
Well, that's why it was important for me to make it clear that this film is about a fetish. It really is about the boy's fetish for the elderly, which means he actually is sexually stimulated by the idea of sagging skin, wrinkles, the signifiers of age. That is what really turns him on sexually. And that's what most people can't understand or relate to. They think, oh, you can think about an old man, how he must have been so beautiful when he was young or something, but that's not the point. The point is that he likes him the way he is now, closer to mortality, kind of, and the closer he is to mortality, to the end of his life, the more turned on he is by it. And so the film is very much, the camera fetishizes the old man's body, not the young man's body as much. And it also, very often, the body is almost like inert. It's like this, there's a kind of necrophiliac kind of attraction mixed up with the gerontophilia. So when he brings the man back to life at the swimming pool, or when he's giving the old man a sponge bath, they're kind of passive, and he has access to these old bodies as a kind of pure aesthetic kind of visual fetish, but he's very tender with them, and he kind of like respects them. Like I was saying, his fetish is about the reverence for the aged, not just the body, but their spirit, their wisdom. How they've that you can learn something by their proximity to death. That they become kind of mystical almost figures. So for him, it's a very profound, and he's so empathetic to their situation where they're disposable and people treat them as if they're invisible. So his fetish has to do with a real empathy for their situation and a reverence for what they are. So but it is still a sexual fetish ultimately.
Lullaby.